Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're tackling something I think it's a conflict that almost everyone feels. It's this question of how you find real peace when the world is just so loud.
It is. It's constantly demanding your attention.
Right. We're in crowded cities. We have notifications going off all the time, endless feeds to scroll. And yet our source material today suggests that so many of us are carrying this quiet emptiness inside.
It's a huge paradox, isn't it? You can be in the most vibrant place. You can be with family, with friends. Your schedule can be completely packed.
And still feel hollow.
And still feel that hollow sensation. The source material gets right to it, though. It basically says the root cause is that we, as a culture, have never learned how to sit comfortably with ourselves.
That's a huge claim.
Yeah.
We've just gotten really, really good at distraction.
Yeah.
So I guess our mission for this deep dive is to figure out, first, how that avoidance works, and then, more importantly, how to make the shift.
The shift from that painful loneliness to what the source calls powerful, productive solitude.
Right. We're looking for the manual on inner peace.
And the first rule in that manual is that peace only starts when the world, actually goes quiet.
Yeah.
You have to unlearn that habit of just constantly filling every single empty moment.
And we are so good at filling that void. Let's start there with the noise. Because when we talk about avoiding ourselves, it's not just flipping on the TV, it's more of an active strategy.
A psychological strategy for sure. We use everything. Our daily responsibilities, social media, multitasking. It's all a kind of shield.
A shield to avoid. Well, self-confrontation?
Exactly. Think of it like a sound dam. All day long, you're building this wall of noise, digital noise, work noise, social noise.
Hoping it holds back your actual thoughts.
Yes, all those unresolved emotions. You hope the sheer volume keeps the water from breaking through.
Right.
But building that dam takes a ton of energy. And eventually you have to stop. And that's when a crack appears.
What I found really insightful here was the point about when peace is achieved. Most of us, I think, we try to find peace inside all the chaos. We try to optimize it, get better at it.
We think if we just achieve one more thing.
Yeah. But the source is so clear. It says, real peace doesn't appear in the noise. It begins the moment the world goes quiet. It's not a reward for surviving the chaos. It's what's already there when the chaos stops.
And that idea is so countercultural, which leads right into the massive societal pressure around just being alone.
Yeah.
We have this story we tell ourselves that solitude is basically a failure.
A social failure, yeah. If someone's single, they live alone, or they just, enjoy their own company.
The assumption is that they must be unhappy or incomplete. Something is wrong with them.
Society's always telling you that your worth comes from your relationships, from external validation. So if you choose to be by yourself, you must be a victim, not someone making a choice.
Precisely. But this is where the deep dive offers a really important reframe. It defines solitude not as a flaw, not as a deficit, but as a powerful space.
A powerful space for what?
For transformation. It's the place you go to reconnect with your real self. The version of you that exists without all the pressure to perform, without expectations or judgment. It's you, unburdened. And that's a source of incredible personal strength.
So it's not suffering, it's a resource, a strategic resource.
Yeah.
But we have to be real about it. The first step, when you turn off that sound dam, it's not comfortable.
Oh, not at all. It's profoundly uncomfortable.
And that discomfort, that's where we need to go next. That's the start of the transformation.
That initial feeling is the friction point. It's where most people just turn right back around. The source says it's because, for the first time, your mind has nothing new coming in.
There are no more distractions.
None. So all those things you've stored away, regrets, dreams you've put on hold, old fears, things you haven't said, they all start to surface. They finally have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
And they're demanding your attention.
And the immediate instinct is just panic. We feel that wave, we call it loneliness or anxiety, and we reach for the phone. We do anything to make it stop.
That's our default setting. But the guidance here is it's actually revolutionary because it's so simple. Instead of running, the source says you have to learn to face these feelings gently.
You don't fight them.
You don't fight them. You don't judge them. You definitely don't ignore them. You just observe them.
Okay, so what does that look like practically? If I'm sitting there and this wave of regret just hits me, how do I face that gently instead of just spiraling?
Well, the idea is to treat the emotion not as an enemy, but as a messenger. So if regret shows up, you just gently label it. You say to yourself, okay, regret about X is here. You just notice it. Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts come with it? But you don't attach your entire identity to it.
So you're acknowledging it's there.
You're acknowledging its presence, but you're not letting it drive the bus. You're basically saying, I see you, I hear you, but I don't have to act on your urgency right now.
So by doing that, they stop being attackers and they start being guides. A guide points you somewhere. It doesn't just hurt you.
Exactly. When you stop fighting your own mind, the pain starts to shift into insight. Being strong when you're alone isn't about having no emotions. It's about stop treating your sadness or your fear like something that needs to be fixed immediately with a distraction.
You start listening instead.
You start listening to what they're trying to tell you about your life.
And this is where the real change happens.
Yeah.
When you commit to that kind of inner honesty, the silence slowly stops feeling like a threat.
It starts feeling comforting. And that process of gentle confrontation is what builds your inner strength.
And then you start to notice things.
You do, because you're no longer using all your energy to fight yourself. You become present. You start seeing these simple joys that were just, buried under all the static before.
Like tuning into a different radio frequency. The source lists these really beautiful, simple examples. The warmth from a cup of tea.
The quiet of a peaceful morning. Or how a song can just really, truly move you.
The big insight there is that happiness isn't always in the huge achievements or in other people. It's found in simply being present.
It's in the small moments that become sacred once your mind is quiet enough to actually notice them.
That move from relying on big external things to appreciating the small internal ones. That leads us directly into our next section, which is about the root of why loneliness hurts so much. And according to the source, it all comes down to one thing: expectation.
This part is so critical. The source says the sting of loneliness. It doesn't come from being physically alone. It comes from the disappointment of your expectations not being met.
Expectations of other people.
Exactly. We build our whole sense of stability on the idea that people will always stay, that they'll understand us perfectly, that they'll support us in the exact way we want them to.
And it's an impossible standard. People have their own lives, their own needs. So those expectations are going to get crushed eventually.
Inevitably. And that gap between what we expect and who they really are, that's where the loneliness lives. We're trying to control our internal feelings with someone else's external behavior. It can't work.
So the problem is external expectation. What's the solution? The source proposes this huge shift. It calls it emotional independence.
Right. It's about moving your expectations inward. Instead of looking at other people and demanding things, the focus turns to yourself. You start to expect more growth from yourself.
That sounds good, but what does it actually mean? To shift expectations from my partner or my family onto myself.
It means you put your energy into the one thing you actually have control over: your own response, your own growth. If you expect growth from yourself, you learn from disappointment, you build new skills, you get better at soothing yourself.
Instead of policing their behavior, which is just exhausting.
It's exhausting for everyone.
Okay, this feels incredibly healthy. But I have to ask, doesn't this risk making you detached? I mean, if my peace is no longer controlled by others, how do you still have that deep, vulnerable kind of love that needs, mutual reliance?
That's an excellent question, and a really important one. The source is very clear on this. Emotional independence does not mean pushing people away. It's not about becoming a hermit.
Okay.
In fact, it argues that real independence is what allows you to love deeply.
How does that work?
Because your love stops being a negotiation. It's not based on neediness anymore. It becomes a generous offering based on choice. When your own peace comes from inside you, you can appreciate someone else for who they are without needing them to complete you or fix your mood.
So if they leave, it still hurts.
Of course it hurts. You grieve. But your foundation, your core, it remains intact. The source puts it perfectly. It says your peace is no longer controlled by others. Your happiness doesn't depend on their behavior anymore. It depends on your own integrity.
That changes everything. You stop chasing connections because you're afraid of being alone.
Exactly. And you start choosing the connections that truly feel peaceful. You move from desperation to selection. You pick people who align with your own settled, peaceful state. And that stability is the goal.
But building that foundation, it's more than just a mindset shift.
Yeah.
Right? It takes practice.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the last section, the actual practical habits for building that internal muscle.
Yes, because this is not an overnight fix. The source calls it a slow and beautiful process. And I think the mistake most people make is they try to do too much. They'll try a week-long digital detox or an hour of meditation.
And then they burn out.
They burn out and they go right back to distraction. So what's needed are these small, simple, consistent habits, little things that slowly build up your tolerance for quiet.
The source gives 5.
Yeah.
And they're so manageable.
They're accessible. That's the key. We're talking 5 minutes. The first is just read a few pages of a book.
Second, journal your thoughts. Third, take a short walk alone.
Fourth, meditate for just 5 minutes. And the fifth is maybe the simplest and hardest. Just sit silently and breathe.
I want to focus on the journaling and the silent sitting. Why are those two so effective, even for just a few minutes a day?
Because they help you externalize your thoughts. When you journal, you're taking all that chaotic noise in your head and you're forcing it into sentences on a page. That act alone creates perspective. It creates distance.
You start to understand yourself better.
Yes. The source says you learn to understand yourself the same way you would understand a friend.
Which is such a different way of relating to ourselves. We would never talk to a friend the way we talk to ourselves in our own heads.
Never. And these little rituals, these 5-minute moments, they force you to bring some of that compassion inward. They show you that your inner world, even when it's messy, isn't your enemy.
And when you start doing this consistently, you start to see the beauty in imperfection.
That's it, exactly. Your focus shifts away from chasing the perfect life and towards the life you actually have. The source says happiness hides in small things.
The sound of rain.
The smell of your coffee in the morning, a quiet evening. When you stop needing life to be perfect, to be beautiful, you stop exhausting yourself. You just appreciate what is instead of always mourning what isn't.
So let's bring it all together. We start with that quiet emptiness, that fear of being alone with our own thoughts.
We learn to stop fighting our feelings and instead face them gently. Let them be our guides.
We shift our expectations inward, building a foundation of emotional independence. And then we strengthen that foundation with these simple daily habits of self-connection.
And over time, a transformation happens. The source promises that loneliness doesn't just go away. It transforms into peaceful solitude.
You stop replaying the past. You stop worrying so much about who stays or who leaves. You just focus on the present. You accept what is, you let go of what hurts, and you welcome what brings you peace.
It's true emotional freedom, isn't it?
It really is. And so for anyone listening today who is feeling that emptiness or that sting of loneliness, the source has one last very provocative instruction.
It says don't run from it. Don't see it as a flaw. Instead, sit with it. Sit with that feeling of being alone.
And let it teach you who you truly are.
Without all the noise.
The core takeaway from this whole deep dive is just so clear. Happiness isn't something you go out and find in someone else. It's something you have to grow right here, inside yourself. And once you build that inner peace,
No one can ever take it away.